Welcome to Movie Explainer. Today, I'll be diving into the supernatural horror film Annabelle, Creation, which serves as a prequel to Annabelle, 2014, and is part of the Conjuring universe. This 2017 film, directed by David F. Sandberg, explores the sinister origins of the possessed Annabelle doll that would later terrorize the Warren family and others. Background and setting: Annabelle, Creation is set primarily in the 1950s, though it begins in the 1940s with a tragic prologue. The story centers around Samuel Mullins, a successful doll maker, and his wife Esther, who live with their young daughter Annabelle, nicknamed Bee, in a remote farmhouse in rural America. After suffering a devastating loss, the Mullins open their home to Sister Charlotte and 6 orphaned girls when their orphanage closes down. What should be a generous act of kindness quickly spirals into a nightmare as the home's dark secrets begin to surface. The tragic beginning: the film opens in 1943, showing Samuel Mullins crafting a limited edition porcelain doll in his workshop. He's a skilled artisan with a loving family. Tragedy strikes when their daughter Bee is killed in a car accident on her way home from church. The grief-stricken parents are devastated by this sudden loss, and their desperation and grief, the Mullins make a terrible mistake. They pray for a way to communicate with their daughter again. Something answers, but it's not their daughter. An entity pretending to be Bee tricks the Mullins into allowing it to inhabit the doll Samuel made. Initially, they believe they're communicating with their daughter's spirit, but they soon realize the entity is malevolent. The Mullins, realizing their error, lock the doll away in Bee's bedroom, wallpapering it to resemble a closet, and attempt to move on with their lives. The orphans arrive 12 years later. In 1955, the Mullins open their home to Sister Charlotte, a nun, and 6 orphaned girls: Linda, Janice, Carol, Nancy, Kate, and Tierney. Janice suffers from polio and uses a leg brace and crutches to walk. Samuel is now a recluse, and his wife Esther is bedridden, wearing a porcelain mask over half her face. The girls are told certain areas of the house are off-limits, particularly Bee's old bedroom. This naturally piques the curiosity of the girls, especially Janice, who is drawn to the room by mysterious noises at night. The horror unfolds: Janice discovers a key that unlocks Bee's bedroom and eventually finds the Annabelle doll hidden in the wallpapered closet. By unlocking the room and removing the doll from its confinement, Janice inadvertently releases the demonic entity that had been trapped with it. Strange occurrences begin to plague the house, particularly targeting Janice due to her physical vulnerability. The entity torments her with visions of a girl who resembles Bee but reveals itself to be something far more sinister. The demonic force gains strength each time it terrorizes the girls, especially Janice. The truth revealed: Sister Charlotte discovers an old photograph of Esther Mullins with Sister Charlotte's former convent group. In the background of the photo is a shadowy figure resembling Annabelle Mullins. When confronted, Samuel finally reveals the truth: after Bee's death, they prayed to any force that would let them see their daughter again. Something responded to their plea, but it wasn't Bee. The entity convinced them it was their daughter's spirit and asked to move into the doll. They allowed it, only to discover the truth when it began to terrorize them, scratching her soul is mine into Bee's bedroom wall and attacking Esther, scarring her face. With the help of priests, they had the doll blessed and locked away, believing the evil was contained. However, by bringing children into the home, particularly vulnerable souls like the orphans, they inadvertently provided the demon with new potential victims. Janice's possession: the demon's attacks on Janice intensify, culminating in her being thrown from her bedroom window. Miraculously surviving but further weakened, she becomes more susceptible to the demon's influence. The entity eventually possesses Janice completely. Linda, Janice's best friend, tries desperately to help her, but is terrified when she realizes Janice is no longer herself. The possessed Janice kills Samuel by stabbing him with a needle through his eye and attacks the other girls. Sister Charlotte attempts an impromptu exorcism, but Janice escapes. The final confrontation: the remaining girls barricade themselves in the bedroom as the possessed Janice hunts them down. Linda and the others manage to escape the room through a dumbwaiter, but the possessed Janice pursues them. Linda hides in the barn but is discovered. Just as Janice is about to attack her, she becomes distracted by headlights from an approaching car, the police summoned by one of the older girls. Janice flees into the night, leaving the doll behind. The epilogue and connections. The film concludes with an epilogue revealing what happened to Janice. She was found wandering miles from the Mullins house and placed in an orphanage, where her possession remained undetected. She is eventually adopted by the Higgins family and renamed Annabelle, creating the connection to the previous Annabelle film. In the final scene, we see the adult Annabelle, formerly Janice, and her boyfriend murdering her adoptive parents, the opening scene from the first Annabelle movie. This masterfully connects Annabelle creation to its chronological successor, completing the origin story of the infamous doll. Themes and symbolism. Innocence corrupted. The film explores how innocence, represented by the children, particularly Janice, and even the doll itself, can be corrupted by evil. Janice's physical vulnerability makes her an easier target, symbolizing how evil often preys on the weakest. Faith and desperation. The Mullins' desperate attempt to reconnect with their daughter leads them to open a door that should have remained closed. Their faith is exploited by the demon, showing how grief can blind even devout individuals. Isolation and abandonment. The remote farmhouse setting emphasizes isolation, while the orphaned girls represent abandonment. These elements create the perfect environment for evil to thrive, unnoticed by the outside world. Cinematic elements. Visual storytelling. Director David F. Sandberg expertly uses shadow and light to create tension. The house itself becomes a character, with its many rooms, hidden spaces, and creaking floorboards adding to the atmosphere of dread. Sound design. The film employs effective sound design, using silence punctuated by sudden noises to create jump scares. The subtle whispers and creaks build a constant sense of unease. Practical effects. While using some CGI, the film relies heavily on practical effects and makeup, giving the supernatural elements a more tangible, visceral quality that enhances the horror. Connection to the Conjuring universe. Annabelle creation strengthens its ties to the larger Conjuring universe through several elements. 1. A brief appearance of a photograph of the Warrens, the paranormal investigators who are the main characters of the Conjuring films. 2. A post-credits scene featuring the demonic nun Valak, who would become the antagonist in The Nun. 3. The narrative connection to the first Annabelle film, establishing a clear timeline within the universe. Cultural impact. Annabelle creation was both a commercial and critical success, earning over $306 million worldwide against a modest $15 million budget. It was praised for its atmosphere, performances, and effective scares, proving more popular with critics than its predecessor. The film solidified the Annabelle doll as one of the most recognizable horror icons in modern cinema and strengthened the Conjuring universe as one of the most successful horror franchises of all time. Conclusion. Annabelle creation stands as a chilling example of origin storytelling done right. By exploring the genesis of the Annabelle doll's evil, the film adds depth to what could have been a one-dimensional horror villain. The period setting, strong performances, particularly from the young actors, and masterful direction combine to create a horror film that transcends simple jump scares to deliver genuine dread. The themes of grief, vulnerability, and faith exploited make the horror more impactful, as they connect to universal human experiences. By tying directly into both its predecessor and the larger Conjuring universe, Annabelle creation demonstrates the potential of interconnected horror storytelling, creating a rich tapestry of supernatural terror that continues to captivate audiences. What makes the film particularly effective is how it transforms seemingly innocent elements, a child's doll, a rural farmhouse, a group of orphaned girls, into vehicles for horror, reminding us that sometimes the most terrifying things come in the most unassuming packages.